Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this food and the hands that prepared it. Thank you for this opportunity to come together and share your goodness. Thank you for this season. Thank you for your son. And we look forward to hearing the message from our sister Sherry. And just thank you for all that you do. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to start with thanking Crest Infinity for allowing us to be here every month and allowing us to grow with them. Is Hugh close by? I want him to share what their standard protocols are because of COVID-19. Mr. Hugh, he's also our chef.
Chef and coordinator.
Yeah, all of you.
Hi guys, thanks for being here today. So as you can tell when you walk in, we have a hand sanitizer readily available. That way you can come in and start with a clean hands, clean surface. Before and after every event, we have a fogging machine that we fog all the tables and chairs with a chemical sanitizer. And then we wipe them down after every event. Other than that, we prepare all the food with masks on and gloves, and we do it behind a nice plexiglass shield. And we serve it so multiple hands aren't touching the same utensil. That's really important in COVID. And then as you can tell, we do quite a bit of social distancing with our table arrangement. And that's pretty much it.
Do you want to tell them about your Christmas dinner special?
Oh, yes, if you guys are in town and you have the COVID food fatigue, because we've all been cooking like crazy, we are doing a simple, well, the food's not simple, the process is simple for you. You just come and pick up your dinner. You can do it for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, however many people you have in your household. I know I'm doing it with my family. It is a steak and lobster dinner. So you get a smoked 6-ounce filet with a 4-ounce Maine lobster tail. They come with their own sauces each. You get a peppercorn demi-glaze and a lobster Newburgh sauce. It comes with a Parmesan and roast garlic mashed potato and asparagus with a roasted bell pepper, coulis, beef bacon, and something else. I forget what else. A lot of things, good things. It also comes with 2 pot stickers, Wagyu beef pot stickers with all the sauces, and a choice of dessert, a homemade cheesecake, New York style cheesecake with fresh berry compote, or a Bananas Foster's bread pudding with salted caramel. And so, yeah, and you just come and pick it up on Christmas Eve and take it home, and it has all the heating instructions. So if you're stuck at home and you don't feel like cooking, because we've all been doing it for 8, 9 months now, please just email me and I'll get your order together.
See them at the end.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly go around the room. I really need to give a big shout out to our sponsors. Katie Andy with Interlink Mortgage has been with me from day one for 5 years in February. Katie?
Thank you. Welcome everybody. It is so nice to be in person and live today and see so many smiling faces. I'm with Interlink Mortgage. I help people with purchasing either their first home, next home, or dream home. And we also do a lot of VA loans and Texas Veterans Land Board. We have first-time home buyer programs. So if you have any questions, just hit me up. And of course, I'm a proud sponsor of Fellowship Power Lunch for 5 years.
Thank you. I would also like to welcome Ms. Valerie Brocky with the Brocky Group.
Hi, everyone. Oh, yes. I am also so excited to be here with you guys in person. What a blessing. And especially to celebrate Christmas. That's even better. And so I can't wait to hear our speaker. And I love this organization. I love the way we network, come together, build each other up. I am a realtor, and so I will help you into upsize, downsize, or right size, or invest. Anything you need, I am here to help, and I'm just glad to see each one of you.
Thank you. Thank you. And then our next one is Ms. Taylor Cole Longacre. Thanks, Lisa Kay. So glad to be here, and thank you for showing up today. We greatly appreciate you. I'm honored to be on the board with Fellowship Power and Lunch, And also Lisa Kay and I co-host a show called Intentional Talk with Lisa Kay and Taylor. You definitely want to check that out. It's a podcast. It's available anywhere you get your podcast. I'm also a TV host and producer and podcaster, so it's my blessing to be able to shine the light on great people, including people like Lisa Kay. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sweetie.
Thank you. And then lastly, I would like to announce that I'm very proud to recently be nominated a Proud Leadership Team for Dallas Professional Women's, and I am the advisor of advocacy, and mainly for our veterans because of my passion for our veterans. I'd like to introduce Erin Jones and let her share just a little bit about what Dallas Professional Women's is about.
Thank you so much, Lisa Kay. Hi, everyone. This is my first time being here, but I'm such a supporter and fan of everything that Lisa Kay puts her heart behind. So I am the chapter lead for Dallas Professional Women, and we are a network of professional women that includes solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, just all of the preneurs out there. And over the past couple of months, Lisa Kay's dedication to the veteran community has just been so incredibly amazing and heartwarming. And we believe that she is the perfect person for the advocacy role. In Dallas Professional Women, what we do is we actually appoint a leadership council. So you have your investment bankers, you have all of these other skill sets out there to help our membership group become great women, able to reach their goals. So with Lisa's commitment to the veteran community and how the veteran community really touches on every single aspect of just the needs of the community out there, stemming from mental health to workforce placement to all of those other attributes out there, we felt like Lisa Kay was really championing that, and we are so proud and so honored to have you take that seat. So congratulations, and we know we picked the right gal for the job, so thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna roll this out right now. So we just finalized our second year of our Fellowship Power Lunch Veterans Appreciation. And I have to share with you that COVID did not stop us from this event this year. I think we had somewhere around 65 guests this year. So I was very happy with that. We felt like the close of December, we needed to end it with a wonderful veteran story. So I'd like for Ms. Taylor Cole Longacre to come up here and introduce our guest speaker for today. Thanks, Lisa Kay. It's always my honor to introduce friends and people that I admire, and this lady is no exception. Sherry James, PMP, is a keynote speaker, author, mentor, and mother. She's from and based in the Dallas, Texas area. She's also an alumni of my show Speak Up that's on Amazon Prime Video, so you want to go check that out. She's got a very inspirational story. She's worked with multiple Fortune 500 companies over the years through holding project management offices, serving as a board of directors leader for PMI Dallas, and speaking to organizations, universities, and as a keynote speaker for the last 20 years. Sherry is dedicated to facilitation of the tough conversation about mental illness and suicide prevention while working on ending the stigma of mental health in the workplace. She's working on her latest initiative, hashtag 2020 Lives Changed, which focuses on how all lives change in 2020 as a result of the global pandemic of COVID-19, unemployment, and the increased visibility of systemic racism. She'll be releasing her debut novel, get ready for this, yes, releasing her novel, After the Suicide, Leading with Love and Light in 2021. So I have to tell you, back in, what was it, February or March, Sherry and I spoke about her 2020 Lives Change, and this was pre-pandemic. We had no idea of what was ahead of us, and so this is her time. She was called for a time as this to lead this initiative and to change more than 2020 lives. We've talked about that. She's definitely doing it. Please welcome Sherry James.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you so much. Good morning. How are you feeling this morning? Is anyone else chilly? Was it just me today? Okay, it's a little cool. All right, so thank you so much for having me, Taylor. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Lisa Kay and Taylor are absolute blessings. It's interesting how when you decide to do something and God puts something on your heart, how he also makes sure to put the right people in place to help you get there. So thank you so much for being here. I am going to try to work my slideshow at the same time, so give me a sec. I have to love technical difficulties. I can't. I don't know. All right. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself while Lee helps me out here. My name is Sherry James. I have been working in corporate America for a little bit over 20-something years, right? My daughter is 31. My son is 13. I'll just let that settle with you guys for a moment. Yes, I'm receiving all prayers in regard, yes. So I love leadership. I've been in positions at companies like AT&T, Holly Frontier. I've done work for the Department of Defense. I have all of these great accomplishments that I talk about typically. We're not going to talk a lot about that today. Today we're going to talk about my testimony. We're going to talk about why I'm here, why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, and the outcome that I'm expecting as a result of events like this. Oh, Lee's still struggling. Okay, no worries, I don't feel so bad. All right, so I want to tell you about the dream. So when I met Taylor, I mentioned that God had given me a number in a dream. So it was September, October 2019, and I said, you know what, I've decided to write a book. The name of my book is After the Suicide, Leading with Love and Light. It was my first time having a conversation about the fact that my father, who is an Air Force or was an Air Force veteran, took his own life. So for my entire life, people knew Sherry, but they had no idea about who I really was. They had no idea about my parents. My mother found my dad. So she's the person who was the first to see my father having committed suicide. She never recovered. There were not resources in place for her to go and have a conversation. And to be honest with you, even if the resources were in place, from a cultural perspective, she likely still would not have had a conversation to say, hey, I'm struggling with how to deal with this pain. Again, people who've known me the last 20-something years have no idea about my father or my mother, who 20 years after finding my dad, she died in very similar circumstances. So what does that mean? That means that all of the accolades that I'll talk about, of the things that I've done and where I've been, my testimony would not be complete if I don't go back and tell you how it all began. So again, here's some of the things I'm proud of. I love being a PMO leader. I see that Essay is here. She and I had the opportunity to work together at one of our previous organizations that was in the oil and gas industry. So we will accept prayers for that as well, because that is definitely a life-changing experience from a woman in leadership specifically, even more so as a woman of color. So we learned a lot. Would you agree? So we learned a lot, and thank you so much for being here. So yeah, there's the kind of the personal things about me. The book that I wrote, it was cathartic because I needed to have a conversation with my father. And I remember talking to my publicist, and she's like, well, you can't write a book to your father if he's not here. But I had questions. I had questions about things like, what's up with boys? If my dad were still here, I would say, hey, I'm raising this young man, and I don't understand the way his brain is working. Can you help me? So the book was cathartic, not for, I didn't think, for everyone. It was just for me. I wanted to be able to be honest about my story, about my past, because my successes don't have the power if you don't understand where they come from. Without that testimony, I had to do it. So I wrote it, and then 2020 happened. So as I'm ready to push my book out, I'm excited. But a lot of things happened in January, February, and March of 2020. One of those things being meeting the lovely Miss Taylor and her inviting me onto the show. That was the first time in public I actually said, and more than public because it's on Amazon Prime, it was the first time I actually said, hey, here's my story. My story is I grew up homeless for the most part. For the 20 years that my mother struggled after my dad's suicide, I slept in cars, I slept under overpasses. I ended up being emancipated from her care by my choice and living then in foster care. That was a very interesting experience. I've been in group homes, and people see me and they just had no idea, right? I tell this story and they're like, wow, you just seem to be so, professional and put together. I was then and am now broken, but I'm grateful for that, because without my brokenness, I would not be a good testimony. I would not be able to tell you what God does for you, what he has for you is yours, no matter what. So that's kind of the overall message. It sounds a little somber, but I promise I will make you laugh. We've got some funny things going on as well. And we've got some interactivity, because I like that. I'm a Toastmaster, so that means I want everyone to talk and stand up and speak and participate. And if you don't, I'll pick on you. All right. So this is that standard logo slide, right? Here's all the companies that I've worked for before. Holly Frontier, I have certifications in Korn Ferry leadership, a couple of their courses. I worked in consulting with technology. I'm a tech nerd. I love technology. Don't judge me by not being able to get my to get this running. But typically, I'm also an alumni of an organization called Women Unlimited, and it's a great program that focuses on women in leadership. And it's kind of like a sorority kind of thing for it's for professional women. I flew up to New York City every month for 12 months. I was in the room with women who were in C-suite positions at John Deere and New York Life. It was amazing, and they taught me how to be a good networker from a woman perspective. So I love that. Please check out that organization if you've not heard about it before. All right. The name of my company, who can see it on the slide? Phoenix Speaks. All right. What do you think of when you see a phoenix? When you hear the word phoenix, tell me what you think. Rising above the ashes. Okay. What else? Is that it? Rebirth. Interestingly enough, no one said the city, Phoenix. Usually people are like, Arizona. Not in this group, huh? Got it. All right. So I decided to name my company Phoenix Speaks because I do feel that as if, the phoenix rises every 500 years. I feel about 500 years old, so it's like, I think it's time. So in the mythology, it's a long-lived bird that cyclically regenerates. And I believe that as believers, as leaders, we have to continue to regenerate. As good as we think we are, as amazing as we are, we need to stop and say, you know what? What served me last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is not serving me now. It is not allowing me to rise. So there's a lot of other kind of etymology behind the word. There are references from a biblical perspective to birds, as in general. So I want to give you a chance to participate. Who has the Bible app on their phone? Yay, awesome. All right, so for whoever can read to me one scripture that makes a reference to birds, you'll get 1 free hour of leadership coaching from me. Wow. Taylor's like, I got it.
Hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the Lord thy God fainteth not, neither is he weary. He giveth power to the faint, and to those who have no might he increaseth strength. Even the youth shall faint and be wearied, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Isaiah 40.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Wow. Okay. Wow. I know. Everybody's like, oh. Everybody puts their phones down like we can. No, that was amazing. But there are several other phrases. That one dropped the mic. What else? No, I want to hear another one though. Somebody find another reference. See if you can search and find a reference that gives us some keynotes about. I'll help you. Isaiah 43. Who can find that for me? You got it?
I got a Matthew.
You got a Matthew? Okay, let's hear it. What you got?
I got my glasses on, sorry. Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not more value
have that one on my list, so that's cool. Awesome. I do too. Yes, ma'am. What do you got? Okay. I love it. Yes. Awesome. Anyone else? Is there another one that we missed? No, there's so many references to birds, right? Now, I knew that this made sense. I knew that when I named my company Phoenix Speaks that I would be able to explain that, but it goes even farther back because there's a feeling about a phoenix that it had to be broken. She had to get to a place where she was done and she was tired. And of course, she'll be a she in my story. Your phoenix can be different for you, Lee, but my phoenix is a woman, right? And so she's gone through these cycles and she had to realize her brokenness before she was ready to rise and go and become more. Now this slide, what do you think of when you see this slide? Just first, like, visceral response. Shout it out. Beautiful, fire. What else? Courageous, powerful. What else? Cold. Oh, bold. Yeah, okay, got it. So I will tell you that I love the majesty of this picture. Right? It looks very like royal, but it also is kind of scary, right? It looks fierce and angry, right? There is a way that someone could say that it's burning, right? It's not anything that we want to do on purpose, right? And I noticed that when I decided to name my company Phoenix Speak, I started to do a lot of research on Phoenix, and they all look mean. They all look so angry, and that's not my story. It's quite the opposite. I am so happy to be on fire for Jesus Christ. Like, it's a different perspective, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. And so there is, again, at the bottom of this graphic, you'll see that there's fire, right? We're coming up from this. So that's kind of deep from a Phoenix Speaks perspective. Who's this?
Tweety.
Who's Tweety? Anybody familiar with the Tweety Bird cartoon? Okay. All right. So describe this image in one word. Cute. Okay. What else? Harmless. I know. He's so sweet. Innocent. Yep. I have that on my list. What else? Nothing? Nostalgic. Crafty. Who's the crafty? I love that. I love it. So here's a really quick story. When I was 3 or 4, I remember that my nickname was Tweety Bird, and I hated it, right? I was a little bitty thing, and all I had was just big eyes, right? I just had eyes, and I had like 3 pieces of hair on top of my head that my grandmother would brush and put a barrette, and it was 3 pieces, like just seriously. So I have family members who only know me by Tweety Bird. They have no idea what my real name is. I was always Tweety Bird. Now what I see in this is brokenness. Usually Tweety Bird evokes like, oh, I remember the Looney Tunes and that darn cat Sylvester. But this reminds me of the brokenness that I experienced as a child, because I wanted people still to see me and see that I was courageous and I was victorious and I was silly and I was all of those positive things. But seeing Tweety Bird for me now, at this stage of my healing, I needed to be called Tweety Bird because eventually that Tweety Bird would become that Phoenix, right? So it's a comment about God's intentionality. Nothing is by accident. Everything happens on purpose. And so I thought about bringing this in, and I'm like, it seems kind of cheesy, but it's who I am. And if we are out anywhere and someone goes, hey, Tweety Bird, and I turn around, don't be alarmed by it. It's normal. So let's talk about this brokenness. Wow. Let's talk about my testimony as it applies to my career. I added animation here, so hold please. Or not. There we go. All right, so here's some things I'm proud of. I'm very proud of my career. I have mentored, developed, and coached thousands of people in my career, literally and actually. From my speaking engagements to my roles in corporate America, even though my role was not leader in all of those. I sometimes was just an individual contributor, but I still found a way to bring people to a place to want to become better. So career-wise, that's great. My family, I told you I'm super proud of my two children. My daughter, 31, she is a cardiac ICU nurse in Houston, Texas. She just got her second master's degree, so I'm a little proud, a little bit. My son is 13. He plays the euphonium. Who knows what a euphonium is? Not one person, right? Okay, good. I don't feel so bad because I had to Google it when he brought it home. It looks like a mix between a tuba and a French horn. So it's a really big brass horn. Super proud of him. He's a 13-year-old boy though, so every day there's something different. I see people going, yeah, I get it. Things, I love fashion, I love shoes, I love clothes, I love things, right? And if you were to see me on stage, or you would see me back in the day when we could travel and do large conferences, you'd see me on stage and go, oh wow, she has nice things. But that doesn't have anything to do with my heart and my brokenness. But that's how I showed up. I knew if I showed up to a place and I was dressed nice and I spoke well and I had a lot of silly things to say, people would not ask me about my brokenness. I've learned how to hide it for very long. And unfortunately, that meant that I wasn't healing. So this whole conversation will be about healing out loud and intentionally building the kingdom. So I've got friends, I have multiple relationships with people all over the world, right? I've traveled to meet people from places that I never thought I'd see, and I was able to hear testimonies of people that I never thought I would hear based on how my story started, right? The way my story started, I was supposed to be strung out on drugs, sold into the sex trade industry. There was no way other than God that he kept me safe in all of those places. And how dare I get on a stage and talk about the things that I have, the things that I'm proud of, without talking about where he brought me from. All right, so let's talk now a little bit about my brokenness. I mentioned that my father committed suicide when I was 7. I lived my entire life pretending as if I didn't have a dad. I didn't go to any type of military events. I would avoid them on purpose because that meant that I would have to go back and deal with that. Again, I mentioned kind of my growing up, and my mother and father are a huge part of my childhood, but what's even more important is that there was always someone at a church, at an event, at school that could see my pain, and they would pull me to the side. And so a lot of the places I lived before my mom passed away were complete strangers, right? And so there is a trust that sometimes you have to have where God gives you this gut feeling like, okay, this is a safe place for you, but he's always placed at least 1 to 5 people in my life to make sure that I was safe. When my mom passed away, I had a daughter already. I had to be a mother, which I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what being a good, nurturing, loving mother was, but I did my best, right? The trials that I went through are long, and there's a lot to talk about, but know that I had not identified myself that I was broken. I thought because I had all of the things on this right side, on the left side, sorry, that this meant I was great. I had a great career, we have nice things, my children have gone to great schools. Surely I should say that I'm not broken. I should say that I am whole. But that's not the story. So here's a question. How would you know if a person on your team was hurting emotionally?
See it in their eyes.
You can see it in their eyes? How would you approach that? With love?
Yeah. Solidity. Peace.
So with peace and solidity, so can you tell when someone's hurting, do you think?
Most of the time. Yeah. Most of the time.
What do you do about it normally?
I'll actually pray for them, but not in front of them.
Okay, so pray for them. Awesome. What else? Yes, ma'am. Okay, so Lisa K doesn't know if you'll be able to tell because some of us are really good at hiding it. That's good. Yes.
Withdraw.
Okay.
Someone who just pulls back, pulls away.
Mm-hmm. Pulls back. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
They hurt others.
Wow,
That's a good one.
that's a good one. They do hurt. They hurt others. hurt people, right? Let's call that. So as believers, right, we have the responsibility to look for, identify, and then offer, even if it's, you don't need to know it. I don't need to know if you're praying for me, right? But we do have a responsibility to uncover some of these brokenness statements, right? I don't know that everyone would get on a stage and take a mic and say, here's how I'm broken, and it's not necessary, because we are all broken from one perspective or the other. The thing that saves us is grace, right? So I will tell you that we have a person that works with us now. She had worked at the same company for 19 years. She was an amazing project manager, wonderful spirit, wonderful energy. And when I met her, when I interviewed to come in to be a leader over this organization, she said, I don't know if you're ready for us here, because we're crazy, and you're probably not going to want to stay very long, because we're just a bunch of misfits, right? She was right, but for the most part, my reason for being there was so that I could coach and teach her how to see the value that God had placed in her. Because she had been in this one place for so long, they told her that she was not enough, that she would never be promoted, that she would never make more money. And she heard this for 19 years. So I get there and I'm like, you know what? I'm ready to show me, with my Korn Ferry certification, show me your leadership competencies. Let's talk about project management. She was an amazing project manager, but she would never have grown in that position, right? She now, the other big part of that, because I worked in HR for a long time, I noticed that there was a huge difference in her salary. So there were 5 people that reported to me. She by far was the least paid, even though she had the most amount of experience, right? And I see the ladies kind of nodding, right? We're like, yeah, we kind of know what that feels like. I thought that that was my responsibility, to make sure that she understood that she wasn't as broken as they had told her. Like, they were like, well, we can't give you a raise because you've been here for 19 years and you've not worked anywhere else. In my opinion, if I'm a leader of a person for 19 years and they're not promoted, that's my fault, right? I either should have managed them up or managed them out into a position that would be better suited for them. I'd love to report that that same person now has a new job, making almost $60,000 more than she was making before. And it's because she would come in my office when I was writing my book, and she's like, hey, good morning, Miss Sherry, how are you? And I'm like, hey. She's like, how many pages did you write today? That's not my job. I'm managing projects. She's like, no, but you know what? You need to tell your story so that I can tell my story. I had to tell the story about my brokenness before she could even identify and understand that though she had been here for 19 years and it was comfortable and cozy and she knew everyone and she knew everyone's kids, that wasn't the place that God had for her. But she had to stop and go, maybe I'm broken. Maybe the fact that I have to show up at the same place every day, every year, for all these years, maybe there's something about me that I can do differently. And that was only because I had a conversation about a testimony. I said, let me tell you a story. I would love to know more about my father. Now, she is a Navy veteran, because God doesn't do anything by mistake, right? She is a Navy veteran. She is disabled, right? She's over 40. So from an HR perspective, she checks all the boxes. And she got to a point where she felt like the only reason she still worked for this organization is because she checked all the boxes from a diversity perspective. But she learned how to pray in the midst of a drama. So here's a we're gonna do a little activity. Lee hates when I do this. I know, I'm so sorry. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. If you're not eating, which I don't think anyone is, I want you guys to close your eyes. Trust me, nothing bad's gonna happen. Close your eyes, and I'm gonna count to 7. So don't open your eyes until I get to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you. Did that feel like a long time, guys? No? It didn't? 7 seconds of silence is an amazing tool. If you guys don't take anything else with you from today, when in the midst of a trial, when you feel pressured, when you feel uncomfortable, when we get that kind of feeling in our stomach, like I'm probably gonna say something that is not appropriate. I'm gonna live or speak from my flesh. 7 seconds of silence can help you refocus, right? Remember the bracelets we used to wear, the What Would Jesus Do bracelets? We would wear it on our arm, and sometimes we just have to look at it like, okay, here's what Sherry wants to do, and here's what Sherry is feeling, but that's not how I should respond. So that 7 seconds of silence, take that and use it in places where maybe if you see someone who's hurting and they look like they're hurting, to close your eyes for 7 seconds and just pray for them. And thank God for their brokenness. Because at some point they will go looking for the solution. They will go looking for a place to be whole. And if they ask you about it, then you have a great story to tell, right? As believers, we have a point to say, you know what? Let me tell you about how I'm not broken anymore. I have to work on it every day. Sometimes I count to 700 times a day, right? But there's a reason for our brokenness. And if we can have that conversation with other believers, if we can have that conversation with people who are not believers, then we're doing our job. We are building the kingdom in the way that we're meant to. And if it means that we've got to set ourselves on fire every 500 years or so, then so be it, because those things are not for us anymore. What questions do you have so far? Anything? Nope. Awesome. So now I get to talk about show up in corporate America with a heart for God. Hired the whole team. We were the laughing stock of the whole oil refinery. They're like, oh, there's Sherry with her little ducklings, right? Because I would walk around like, come on guys, please step up and dress. Super proud of that. So I named myself then that I thought I was like the millennial mom, and they were like, you're more like a millennial mentor. So I took it. The second picture is my son and I. And this picture just always causes me to tear up. But last year at my book release event, it was on my birthday, and my friends set up this amazing book launch event. I wanted purple carpet, which obviously was a big issue. We couldn't find purple carpet, so it was red. But we had it at this restaurant in Plano called Knife. A wonderful group of people, and they were like, we'd love to help you celebrate your birthday and your book launch. I had posters about the book, and I mentally, logically, I was ready. I'm like, I can do this. I speak all the time. I walk into this room full of people whose lives I had been touching for so many years. People had gotten in their car and driven to Dallas to wish me happy birthday and to give me like kudos on telling my story. And I remember walking in and I'm like, this must be the wrong event. I don't know, all of these people are here. But this young man, Miles, was 12 at the time. And I walked in and he was standing at the front of the door with his hands like this. And I walked in because I practiced it in my mind. Like, it's my birthday, so I want to walk in with like this is my plan. I walked in and I saw him standing there, and he had command of the room at 12 years old. Like, I don't even know what head gesture he did. He did something and everyone was like, shh, she's here. And I looked at him and he was so proud of me. I don't know how to explain that. There are no words to articulate, to look, and he's the only kid there, right? Because it was my birthday party. I was very intent about my birthday party and releasing my book on my 48th birthday because my mother never saw her 48th birthday, right? It was key that night was that night. And we ran into some logistical issues, but overall, it was an amazing night, not just because my friends were there to celebrate me, because I was able to tell my story, I was able to give my testimony, but this kid, he made me so proud, and he reminded me that he was raised with the Word of God. He was a man of the Word. Now, he's still 13, he still lies, he still breaks stuff, he still hides stuff. He's far from this perfect angel, but he, in that moment, made me understand that I was able to do what my mother was never able to do. I was able to look at him and be proud of him. The same thing with my daughter, right? Even though I have two only children because they didn't grow up in the house together, but that also was intentional. This guy, this is his birthday this past year. So now he's 13 and he's 5'7". I'm 5'2", minus the shoes, right? So now I have to look up to my son. And I thought that that was a bad thing, right? I'm like, I'm the mom. I'm supposed to be. I learned so much from this young man every day about how my heart shows up. I had the opportunity to speak at his school, and I talked to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders about suicide. The teachers were terrified because they're like, we don't know how this is going to work. It's not a part of the curriculum. We shouldn't be talking about mental health in school. I received an envelope full of handwritten letters from these children, like 3 weeks later, thanking me for having this conversation, telling me how many people in their lives had committed suicide, how many people in their lives had attempted, how much they are dealing with depression and anxiety in the 6th grade. And here's the second note that I want you guys to take with you today. As parents, as believers, as leaders in our communities, the thing that we need to stop doing, that we don't know we're doing, is shaming people for their mental states. A young lady sat in this classroom and she said, my mom tells me I have no reason to be sad because we live in a nice house and we live in a nice neighborhood and I have all of the nice clothes and things. That has nothing to do with a mental health scenario. If you're depressed, it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what you wear, right? But for this 6th grader to be able to easily articulate the thing that stressed her the most was that her parents didn't believe she should be stressed. I will tell you that I've done the same thing. Maybe even since that email, right? I've done that. I'm like, why are you upset? Why are you should be happy. When I was growing up, I had to walk to school uphill. Remember that, right? We were like compared ourselves to our parents, and they were like, you guys have it easy. The last picture is this American Airlines Skyball. Has anyone heard of this event? You have? What do you know about the American Airlines Skyball, sir?
Huge event.
It's a huge event.
Huge event.
It is.
Gary Sinise used to be the
Yes,
historian.
absolutely.
He will not be anymore.
Yes, I heard that.
But they've kind of changed.
Mhm.
They do Air Power Foundation does a lot of good. When Gary Sinise was part of it, he was part of Snowballers for Us,
Yep.
which is very near to my heart.
Awesome.
They have moved it to digital, which is even cooler for the kids.
Yes.
Snowballers. It still goes on,
Yeah.
but it has a different name. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Air
amazing.
Power Foundation, or the Skyball is like the veteran event in Dallas.
Yes. So now note, this was the veteran event in Dallas. Now, if you guys were paying attention, how many veterans events had I attended in my life? 0. None, right? I had been invited. I was always busy. But a good friend of mine, Carrie Mirabal, she's my hero, my mentor. She wrote a book called You Already Have the Know. I met her speaking at an event. We met in the green room, and we became like she's now my sister. Like we are now sisters, right? But we had this whole conversation about my dad, and she's like, you have to tell your story. You can't just keep this to yourself. This is amazing. I'm like, no, I'd rather talk about project management. Said no one ever. Like no one wants to hear about project management. So she introduced me to a gentleman. His name is Corey Retzloff. Corey lives here in Burleson. He is a veteran, and so is his wife. They have a beautiful family, and he said, you know what, Miss Sherry, I want you to come to this event. I would love to have you be a part of this event. And he's like, it's black tie. I was like, yes, I get to wear my formal dress. It's gonna be great. And in all transparency, I'm single, so I was like, this is going to be a great opportunity. I would love it. Carrie and I were on the same page, right? We were like, you know what, we're gonna get dressed up, we're gonna go, it's gonna be great. I was not prepared for this weekend. The night before, I'm downstairs having dinner, and people are, they're coming in on these machines. So it's a wheelchair, but it allows you to stand up, right? And so I met this, and it was cool, because it's technology, remember? I'm a tech nerd, right? So I'm sitting in the lobby, I'm having dinner, and I see this guy and this thing, and he's showing it off, and he pushes a button, and now he looks as if he's standing, and he's able to turn around, and I'm just like, man, this is so awesome. That night, I met maybe 15 or 20 veterans, and I heard my father's story from each of those people. God doesn't make any mistakes. We are nowhere by accident. One of the guys that I met, man, he was loud and rude, and he was making all of this fuss. And I'm like, dude, why are you so loud? What's going on? and everyone stops and they just look at me. And it's, what's his name? Chef Robert Irvine. He was it Kitchen Impossible, or he's like a huge TV star? I have no idea. So I'm giving him a hard time. He actually was the person who did the dinner at the last Sky Ball. He had brought all these young people to cook the food and prepare. It's the first time I heard the story about the table set for one. I internalized that. I understood that. I had a different appreciation for my father. I cried the whole time, did not find a husband, obviously. But it was a wonderful experience for me because I had to, in that moment, realize that I was broken without my father, but I am broken with my father, which is it's an okay place to be, right? All right, so I've got a couple of minutes before I wrap up, but I want to tell you about this guy. Who's this guy? Don't say. I know you know. Who's this guy?
Simon Sinek.
Yes. Are you familiar? No? This guy wrote a book called Start With Why. It's got a great TED Talk, and he wants you to understand why. What's your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? And I, back here with my afro, this is one of my more unfortunate hair choices, but I met him and he's like, I love your passion for young people and teaching. Why are you doing it? And I'm like, because it's the right thing to do. He's like, yep, no, that's not it. There's something else. Go back and find your why. This happened 2 years before I wrote my book, but I'm so glad because I go back and I read his book and there are things in there that's like, if I had just paid attention then, maybe this journey could have started a little bit sooner, but all things in time. But I owe a lot of the work that I'm doing to him. Oh, that's my timer. Got it. All right, so obviously we have incorporated the Phoenix into our very spirit. So Phoenix Speaks is the organization that I created in 2019 to make sure that I could do these kinds of events, that I could travel and speak and talk to people. It's what I've been doing forever, but I've been doing it for free. So I started in 2019 with the dream that I would touch 2,020 lives this year. Well, that's what I thought the dream was. In actuality, God was trying to tell me that all lives would change in 2020 and that I needed to be in a position to have these kinds of conversations because who knew 2020 would be what it was? When I met Taylor, she goes, are you sure you only want to touch 2,020 lives? This is going on Amazon Prime, girl. And I was like, oh, no, I meant 2020 times 2020 was what I meant to say. The book that I wrote, Phoenix Speaks, and we actually have had the opportunity to touch way more than 2,020 lives. Amen. So I'm super blessed about that. This is my mission and vision statement. And you guys already know this. I just want to make a change. I want to be the person who will have that conversation. There's difficult conversations about racial sensitivity and bias. I have been doing that my whole life. I've been teaching classes about that. I will continue to do that. I will be an advocate for that work. Again, we want to talk about inclusion, diversity, and mental wellness and mental health. Most people don't see that as a diversity topic, right? They think that it's something that you can see. I can see that you're an African-American woman, so then I want to bring you on. But there is another portion of diversity, and it's understanding people's trauma and their pain and how they show up to work every day. So that's that. I, for the last year, have been doing a Instagram Live TV show. I do it every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. I've received feedback that that is the same time as Bible study, and I need to move that. So in 2021, we'll be doing it at a different time. But I've talked to people who are different practitioners, yoga, medicine, music, all of these other therapies for dealing with stress, other than just the ones that we know about. So I've been very grateful for doing that. And lastly, but not, here's a picture of our team. This team has worked for 1 full year. No one has received a penny of payment. They are just waiting. Their job and their goal is to touch lives and to save lives. And so every day, I'm just so grateful to see that I have a team of people who see my vision, they see God's vision, and they know that we will make it. So I can't go on without talking about this amazing team of people that God has brought in my life to make sure that someone, even if it's just one person, stops and finds their brokenness to be beautiful and to find that their brokenness is the reason that God is there to fill that void. Okay, so in conclusion, I'm done. But I'm grateful for my brokenness because it allows me to be the person that God created me to be. All of those years ago, prior to my dad, prior to my mom, these were all things that were necessary in order for me to be here with you guys today. So thank you.
Is anybody have any quick questions for Sherry before we wrap this up?
I would like to ask, and this is through my own experience growing up, and we talk about a lot of times it's a God thing, is I went back to college and took an English course, and through that I wrote 3 stories, and one of them had to do with my upbringing. And I cried, and I'm dating myself, this is before computers, I was typing at night, I was rewriting my story, my professor kept saying, walk away from it for a couple of days, go back. Little did I know that it was cleansing my heart. And I wanted to ask you, writing your story, has it cleansed you to not hurt in the same way, but maybe in a forgiving way?
Yeah. Actually, and it's exactly it, because now I can